A warm welcome. This is Joanna Barbera of Music City Mindfulness, and we're here to deep dive into soul work, the energetics, and creating work that is in alignment with the desire of your soul. All of our souls have a desire. It's usually where our passions come from and things that just totally fascinate us. And I'm going to teach you some of the foundational findings that I learned along my journey of very much desiring and wanting to create work that was fulfilling and felt like I was actually living life even when I was working. So that work didn't feel like this part of my life that didn't matter. And then when I wasn't working, that's when I was free, that's when I was happy. So I'm going to walk you through that today. Before we begin, I want you to make the decision, if you can. You could watch this passively, you could have other things going on in the background or be cooking or checking your phone and everything. But really, if you could bring your full presence here and be with me in this live transmission, I can promise you that you're going to absorb it much, much more. And that allows the vessel to be open, your channel to be open, so that codes can light up. If I speak something that is speaking to your soul, you're fully present for it. So if you want to take a photo for social media now, you can, and we could post that later. And otherwise, shut down the apps. Stay on this live, maybe blow up the video so that you're only looking at this live video and you're not getting distracted. And let's commit to being fully here together so that we can get everything out of this that's meant for you today. All right, everybody in? So you can leave comments as we go. And at the end, I'll answer specific questions. So have your notebook out, jot down insights, jot down questions that you might have so that at the end we can talk about that together. And if you're watching the replay, you can also write questions in the comments, and I'll for sure be checking them and answering them in the Facebook group as well. Okay, and let's see. As always, I like to attune to one another before we begin, before we dive into any practice or any training. My favorite way, as many of you who know me, is with a mantra, and the simple mantra, seed sound of Om, the sound of everything, the first sound ever made. That's what it is believed in the yogic tradition, and just reminding us of the truth of who we are beyond this human realm, right? Connecting to the biggest one, connecting to each other, and connecting to our purpose for being here. All right, so let's all take a moment to tune in. We'll chant Om 3 times. I'll set an intention for the group, and then we'll dive in. So if you're not already, you can come into a seated position like I'm in, a cross-legged position. And if you're in a chair, which I'm also in a chair, but you may have your feet flat on the floor, and that's okay too. Just have them flat on the floor, with the knees in front of your hips, lined up with your hips, and the hands on the knees with the spine straight. So just move your back a little bit away from the chair, and so you can straighten the spine and let the energy flow. I'm going to go back into my comfy position. Believe it or not, this has become my most comfortable seating position, an easy pose. All right, so spine is nice and straight, shoulders are back, chin is tucked in slightly, and the eyes are closed. And just begin to call your spirit fully to this moment with each inhale. Exhale anything that came before through the mouth. Again, pulling your spirit to this present moment. Exhaling through the mouth. And begin to feel your sit bones on the chair, your hands on the knees or on the thighs, wherever they are. Begin to drop the shoulders back slightly, lifting the heart. And let the breath fill up the belly and the rib cage on the inhale, holding it briefly, noticing any tension. And then as you exhale, releasing that tension. Again, slow breath from the base of the spine. It draws up, fills up the belly, the rib cage, and then sip in a little more air to the heart. Hold that breath briefly. Exhale, let go of all tension. And one more. Breath is drawing up the spine, into the belly, into the rib cage, sipping a little more air to the heart. Hold the breath, let the energy move throughout the body, and whatever is ready to be released, exhale. Raise the hands up to the heart, rub the palms together, creating a heat. So really rub those palms together. This also just gets all the energy meridians open and flowing. We have 72,000 nerve endings in the hands alone. So we're just waking things up, still feeling your sit bones anchored onto the chair or on the floor, wherever you are. Bring the hands to the heart center. Tuck the back of the thumbs into that little notch at the heart center. Let's take a slow breath in. Lift the chest, drop the shoulders, hold the breath, exhale. So we're connecting to the heart here. We have the prayer pose right at the heart. And we're just going to take a moment to tune into the heart's desire. Your heart's desire brought you here today. You're craving something more expansive, more heart-centered, heart-driven. So just let yourself know that you're fully here for anything that's meant for you. And that anything that's not meant for you just falls off very simply, just doesn't penetrate. But what is meant for you opens something in you widely, a new path, direction, guidance. And as always, surrendering to the divine plan, knowing that what is in our soul and the passion that's in our soul is part of our divine blueprint and why we're here, and that we're open and willing to accept this mission. So another slow, deep breath in. This time exhale through the mouth. And we're going to tune in with 3 long ohms, attuning to each other's frequency and the highest frequency. Let's inhale to begin. Inhale one more time and hold the breath. Sip in a little more air. And exhale through the mouth. At this time, if you want to set your own intention, silent intention, you can do that now. And when you're ready, you can open up the eyes. All right. Here we are. Welcome back. How's everybody feeling? It's amazing how just a few minutes of tuning in can really center the energy and just have you feeling much more in flow and present. So I'm hoping you're feeling that way. I do. All right. So you are here because you feel ready for a change. You might be feeling stuck. You might be feeling bored. You might feel like you're doing work that's just not meant for you anymore. For me, it felt like I was just wearing a sweater that didn't fit anymore, and it was becoming increasingly more uncomfortable. And if your job may feel outdated, like it represents an expired version of yourself. So let me know if any of this resonates with you. And if it does, which one feels the most aligned, okay? So yeah, feeling outdated. And this is so common when we begin to grow and we begin to do the internal work and go deeper within the depths of ourselves. Things that were in our lives, that were seeds planted long ago, are no longer in alignment, in reflection of who we are now. And it's funny because it takes a minute for that to catch up with us, for who we are now, for our life to reflect who we've become from all the work we've done on ourselves and all the studying and the whatever you're doing, yoga and breath work and things that are more expansive. It takes a minute for the rest of life to catch up in reality, in our 3D dimension. Okay? But it is, it's my plan and my commitment to give you some clear direction on things you could start doing right now to shift the energetics so that you can begin to vibrate what is your future soul job, soul work. Even though you're in the old paradigm, you could begin to vibrate that frequency now. All right, does that sound good? All right, so the two biggest challenges and the most common challenges I see of why people stay in a job that feels outdated, expired, no longer in alignment is one, they're in a job that's super secure, they're making good money, they have benefits, and this idea of having work that is fulfilling and joyful and abundant not only seems unrealistic, but the idea of creating that is daunting, right? So let me know if that's you. And the other challenge I typically see is more of my journey, which is totally willing to do work that is fun and creative and will bring me joy, and I'm there for it. But then the minute I start thinking about what I could do and what I want to do, there's this like voices of indecisiveness that just take over, and it just can send you running for the hills. You don't know where to start, you know what to do, and the voices get really loud and it gets very confusing. So those are the two main challenges I see when people even take the first step of having the thought of dissolving their current work and stepping into more soul-aligned work. So Chelsea says, yeah, this sweater is now very tight and itchy. Yes, I know the feeling. I know it. I get it. Oh, man. All right. Well, we're going to hopefully get this new story rolling for you. All right. So, there comes a time when what you're doing, you've been doing what you should your whole entire life, and the trade-off isn't worth it anymore. So that trade-off maybe of, yeah, it's like really great money and have benefits and it's consistent, but like, God, I'm really feel like my soul is dying in this. I feel miserable. And I remember feeling like those hours when I was at work just felt like I was wasting life. Like it was like, this is my life. And all those hours that I'm somewhere I don't want to be is just like wasting it. And then when I wasn't working and I was doing the things I wanted to do, I was living. So it was very fragmented. Let me know if you could relate with that. So my personal story, work for me was always just to make ends meet. To support my love for music. I was a touring musician, my passion for travel. I loved adventure. So work for me was just to get by. I never really had a huge emphasis on making a ton of money through work. I just needed to make enough so that I could feel free. Now, what was so blaringly apparent with that, once I got to this crossroads and had to start doing some reprogramming, was that I had a really deep story running that work meant prison and not working meant freedom. So I was split into those two. And that also meant work equals feeling imprisoned, but it's how I make money. So I'm going to do the minimal amount, and then not working equals Joanna gets to be who she is. She gets to feel free. She gets to be creative. So nowhere in the programming was Joanna gets to be creative, gets to be adventurous, blended in with work. It was a completely separate definition. And it took some it might seem very obvious now to me, to you listening, but I mean, it was really deeply driven. And that was me going far back into my programming and seeing how my parents worked and how that seemed to be the thing that made them unhappy, and really seeing that split. So it's a deep program that runs for many of us. Perhaps you can relate to that. But that was my story. And I remember coming to a crossroads when my dream of becoming this famous, notable songwriter and musician wasn't aligning anymore with my values and my lifestyle. And I was like, oh, so now all these side job hustles in hopes that maybe one day the fun creative thing will make me money. Now I'm just standing in the middle of the fun creative thing that might make me money at some point, and work I hate. Like, what am I doing? And the big game changer for me was when I decided to look at who I am as a person and what skills I already have, what I've already done. I began to grab my internal resources of what 39 years at that point had taught me in life, and what things I had gained knowledge and skill and just really mastered in my life. And I thought to myself, well, 10 years ago, I trained in Kundalini yoga. I literally do ritual all the time. I'm obsessed with self-help to the point that I had gone to many seminars and things like that. I had done vision boards, and I said, okay, what if I hosted an event? And I hosted a vision board circle called Align and Design. This was, 7 years ago. And I had rented out I didn't even rent out a space. I got in touch with the local park here, Metro Park in Nashville, and did it at one of their spaces inside the nature center. And I had, to my surprise, 17 people sign up, and it went fairly well, even though I was very nervous. And here we are, years later, it just opened up every door for me. But it was all about just taking the first step, taking some bold action, and really being able to empty myself out enough, mental chatter, fears in my body, trauma, responses to the idea of leaving my work and things like that, and be able to just take the next right step, not get totally ahead of myself and think like, oh, but how is this going to make me, enough money to buy a house one day? Just start where you are, is what I told myself. And I got some help. So let me know if, you're feeling either some kind of, ooh, or you're feeling some excitement about this, and we will move on. But the number one thing I will say, that if I could go back and start this journey a little differently than I did, if I were you, I don't know where you are on your journey right now, I would start getting a non-negotiable practice in place now, so that you can start weeding out all the thoughts that are going to come up and try to keep you in your comfy zone, and so that your energy can hold the frequency of possibility and confidence. So whatever that looks like for you, everybody's different, but if you have the tools, use them. If you don't have the tools, find some that are going to help you to navigate, because as you dissolve the old, resistance can come up, and you're going to have to really become masterful of your energy and the mental chatter to clear the path. Okay? So, all right, I'm excited for you. So today I'm going to walk you through my process. I'm going to take you into how I went from feeling like when I was at work it was a burden, to how my job also now equals fun, freedom, alignment, fulfillment. And my hope for you is to have you become the master gardener of your life. So think about this, even you being here today is planting the first seed of what you want to bring and call into your life in regards to a job, or in regards to anything really. And then what do? We have to find and create an environment for it to thrive, for the seed to thrive and come into full fruition. We have to nurture it, water it, and we have to be patient. That's the other thing. It takes patience. And depending on how quickly you manifest, which we're all different, we all have to move through different programming to manifest the next thing. It takes some time for your new identity, your new self that you are now, for your reality to catch up with that. Okay? So patience is really important. So if you're ready to dive in, let me know in the comments. Take a little bit of water. And check in real quick and see if anybody is wanting to be let in. All right, we're good. Anthony wants to join. Let's let him join. Okay. All right, everyone. Let us do this. Okay. Hey, let me tune in so I really like to move. I have some notes, but I really like to just let what wants to come out move through and out and out. All right, so why do I say dissolving our current job? When I think of dissolving, I think about something that is is matter, it's in reality, and it just slowly starts to get less and less until it's nothing. That's what it felt like to me. It was this process of the scale tipping. And the energetics was the scale tipping in the way of I had to begin embodying more and more of who I really was, so that the jobs that I was working would no longer match the energy I was holding. And I got to tell you, it was really hard at first. The more I kept doing things, let's say this part of my life was me doing the yoga, doing the mantra, doing all the self-help, screaming on the top of my lungs at a Tony Robbins seminar. I was doing all that, and I would feel myself take on the persona of the person I wanted to be. And then when I go back into the old job, I would immediately turn into the Joanna that was like, this is stupid, I hate this, I feel like I'm wasting my time. And that was the vibration. So it couldn't, and I felt so split. So what I had to do was learn how to bring, there was a lot of resistance to this. I just am remembering. That's why I'm so passionate about it. About bringing this Joanna, the higher expression of myself, to that job. It was just fighting because I had so much judgment and stories around like, well, this person wouldn't be working a job like this. But I had to tell myself that this job is a necessary step to the next thing. And I had to tell myself that every day. And I'll get into that a little bit more in a moment. But I just want to let you know, if you're feeling that split, I did too. You are not alone. All right. So some of you might be wondering, like, all right, this is great. In theory, this is awesome. Love hearing your story, but what does it mean to follow your calling? What is your soul's work? What if you don't know that? What if you're standing and you're just like, all I know is that's not it. What I'm doing now is not it. But what is my soul work? I am willing to bet that most of you here today, somewhere inside, are already living what your paid soul work is. It exists in you already. It's something that you're passionate about. A lot of times something that you're obsessed with, that you can totally nerd out on. And a skill and skills that you are already implementing and that are active in other areas of your life. Has to be. They wouldn't be. If it wasn't your soul work, it wouldn't be alive in you somewhere. I say that with wanting to remind you that these are the clues. You may be at the part of your journey where you're collecting clues, and it's going to be steps. You start doing one thing, and trust me, I didn't want to just start doing vision board circles for the rest of my life. And I actually let that trip me up. I let it hold me off for a while. So I was like, well, this isn't what I want to do. Yeah, but it's closer. It's in the world of metaphysics, and it's in the world of conscious community. So taking the steps and pulling the clues from what you're already passionate about. I was passionate about quantum reality. I was passionate about conscious community and doing ritual together and leading through yogic exercises. That was part of it. Maybe I don't want to be a vision board coach, but that was my first step, which now you could see has only led me to the next things. Okay, so something that you're already obsessed with, something that comes as easy as breathing. Is anything coming to mind? So I encourage you to grab your notebook and just jot down some things that you're already obsessed with. Have you been reading tarot cards? Tarot, maybe I said that incorrectly. Cards from, the past 5 years. I know, Chelsea, you have a deep passion about, correct me if I'm wrong, but like religious icons and symbolism, right? And just something that you just are totally nerding out on, and what category that falls into, and just explore a little bit right now. And also let me know in the comments. Let me know what's coming through. So let's take a minute and begin jotting some things down. And if you have any questions, go ahead and ask in the comments. Your calling is already inside of you. All right. I'm going to speak a little more if you want to share anything that's come through. Just simple. Okay, Madison, for me, astrology, decorating, bringing people together, curating vibes. That was one I could relate to. Spaces and yoga. Yes. So much you can do with that. And if it seems daunting, don't worry. I'm gonna help you out with that part. All right. Just checking to see if anybody else is sharing. So we're going to work with an acronym. I'm going to write down a note. I didn't want to do slides today because I wanted to really feel connected with you all. Acronym. These are going to be the 3 pillars. The 3 pillars that I find are the energetic foundations for beginning the process and navigating the process of calling in and creating soul-aligned work. So my handwriting is horrible. The acronym is ACT. All right? Easy to remember, ACT. And what's even more easy to remember about that is the first pillar, the first step, is action. The key is to begin to take action in the opposite direction of what is draining you at your current job, in your current job situation. So taking action in the opposite direction. So again, mine was like gathering my skills, looking at them, and dreaming up, what is something I could do with this? And you just gotta put fear on the back burner when you're journaling these things, because I encourage you to do this on your own too. Writing down your skills, exactly how Madison did. And if you and even say to yourself, if I wasn't afraid, if I wasn't terrified, I would ... Write down what that is. I'm going to keep hammering this little side note in, this wisdom code for you. Some kind of practice before you do these types of deep dives to calm the nervous system and empty the mind is so important. because you can really shake yourself up when you think about changing or shifting something on a grand scale. And that can be the exact thing that keeps you where you are and stuck. So just reiterating, calm the nervous system, use your tools or find tools before you do these deep dives. So going through your skills and then taking one small or large, bold action in the direction away from what you're doing and what's not working. Okay? So you being here right now is taking an action. So take a moment, inhale, exhale, and congratulate yourself. You're shifting the direction by taking this hour out of your day to learn something, to be infused with my experience. By you're standing, they call it, I'm not saying I'm a giant, but they say stand on the shoulders of giants. Learn from people that you can relate to, but they're to some degree where you want to be headed or where you want to be. Okay? So this is a huge step. And then typically other steps that I see when people start shifting the energies is like you learn a skill, right? Or you expand a little bit on the knowledge of what you're already knowledgeable about. So Madison, bringing people together, curating vibes and spaces. Maybe you work with a mentor who can guide you through making that into an event or something like that. Or maybe you read an article on it or watch a video. You take action in the direction, and then it's one action leads to the next action, and you gotta just not get into like big picture. You can create the big picture if you are already someone who has your vision lined up, and you just need to take the steps to get there. Awesome, that's a beautiful way of doing it. Otherwise, you can take my suggestion or my experience and just continue to calm the nervous system, empty the mind, make the next right action. Oh, I'm getting a little nervous again. Let me go back to my tools. Empty out, open myself up to be a channel, get that divine guidance. Oh, okay, this is the next action, and try to stay as present as possible as your soul, your divine essence guides you. Yes, it's all a dance of faith and action. Always. That is the way. Let me know if this is resonating as I move on. Kind of looking at my notes, kind of not. So these are the tangible actions you could take. Learning a skill, hiring a mentor, reading a book, watching some videos, listening to a podcast, recognizing that the knowledge you have that you might not think is that big of a deal is the exact thing someone else is yearning to learn about. And there are people, and this is me speaking from experience, that there's 1,000 people that could teach or do what you're realizing you have as far as skill and knowledge goes. Sure. But no one can do it in the way that you can. And there are some people that are only going to be able to resonate with you and what you hold in your field and the experiences you've had. And then there's other people that are not even going to, you're going to be speaking a different language and they're going to go learn from someone else. But you matter. Your version matters. Okay, so don't let that, as a little side note, wisdom code, don't let that talk you out of exploring these things. Okay, and then the other thing is, yes, the energetics. I in my notes, I'm already saying, and I already said to you, above and beyond all, everything I'm saying, all the action steps, all the writing down of the skills is nothing without creating your capacity to hold the energy of this new version of your life, yourself, your job. And that takes doing whatever you know how to do to keep the mind clear, your nervous system strong, and your energy strong. So you're going to hear me say that like a gazillion times because that's important. All right, so let's do a quick prompt. What is one action you can do, small action, large action, that you can do today? One thing Tony Robbins said when I was obsessed with him 5 years ago, he's like, when you have an idea, if you don't do something within like that minute or within that hour, it's gonna fall to the wayside. It's not gonna have that charge to it. That is true. So let's jot down one thing you could do today in the direction of something you're passionate about and is in the opposite direction of the life that's not working for you, the job that's not working for you. Remember, this doesn't have to be your career. This is just that you're following the breadcrumbs. Some of you are just in the follow the breadcrumbs portion of this journey. So what's one thing, one action you could do today? Let me know in the comments. This is fun. I'm excited for you guys and gals, whoever's watching. Guys, gals, fairies, aliens, who knows who's in this community. All right, so that was our action. Our action is our first foundational pillar. Take action, one small action in front of the other. Okay. Chelsea says meditate. Yeah. That mental chatter can really trip us up. I know that I get like over idea syndrome. And then I'm like, oh my God, it paralyzes me. So that meditating and clearing and emptying out it's a good one, very good one. The next, Madison says, read a new book. I just got on astrology. So I'm already feeling some strong astrology vibes from you that seems like it's lighting up a code for your soul work calling. Would you agree with that? All right, so the acronym action. The next one is conscious reprogramming. So what happens when we start to move in the direction of our dreams and our calling? All the programming that we've been taught our whole lives about being realistic and blah, 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 blah. You can't make money that way. It's just a hobby. You bet your tush that all those things are going to come up for you. And it becomes easier to navigate when you can catch it and know that it's just a story. Again, keeping that energy strong and aligning yourself to the vibration, attuning to the vibration of the astrologer, of the meditator, by doing those things. We're really reconditioning ourselves to see ourselves in lives a totally different way. So one of the things that I had to do when I was really working to bring my higher expression self to my current job was to examine what I would have to believe to end up in a job like that in the first place. Let's take that in for a minute. What would we have to believe about life, ourselves, for us to be or normalize a job like that in the first place? So for many people, it's the security. My least favorite program that many people have is that like fun is for your 20s and seriousness from your 30s. And then your 40s, there's all these ideals and like fun and joy and passion is like not in there anymore. It's just like so sad. I refuse to let that be my reality and think that work is that, right? That seriousness. So there's a lot of programming that people may have to do in that area. And the dichotomy, the belief that like hobbies are fun, like I said earlier, and work is work. So reprogramming, and it goes deep. I highly suggest not doing this alone when you start kind of going into the deep dive. This is where like a mentor could really help, or some kind of book, or even a good friend, if you have a good enough friend that you can reflect things back to. Because it can go as deep as how you feel safe and secure in the world and beliefs you have about yourself. Like I said, that light bulb went off for me when I was like, oh my gosh, like literally the split is work equals prison, my inner child created that understanding from what I saw my parents go through and struggle with their jobs. So I was like, oh my gosh, work just is like prison. You just have to freaking do it and make money. And then like, I want to be there as little as possible and be free. So I always had like very little money because I didn't want to stay in prison long. I just wanted to get it done. Yeah. And then, go have my fun. So there's a little deep dive and digging into the stories, the programs around careers and jobs and work and money. The wisdom code I want to offer you, if you take nothing else away from this class today, this training, please feel this. You do not want to vilify people at your job, your clients, your customers, and you don't want to be complaining. I used to think that I had to complain and hate things and become so angry in order to give me the ammunition to leave. But things don't work that way in the quantum. It may be enough for you to be like, all right, F you, middle fingers up, I'm out of here, right? Oh, that was just the last straw. That person said that thing, I'm out. But if you haven't taken full responsibility for what brought you there, and when I say take full responsibility, I mean acknowledged where you were hurt, where you got wrong messaging, where you internalized things, but it's your responsibility now to unpack those things. So if you skip that step and you just go guns a-blazing, F you, I'm out of here, those same experiences are going to follow you in a different form. You could be teaching all the astrology classes in the world, and Susie, who used to like hover over you and judge you and criticize you, and is going to just show up in another form because you're still carrying that frequency somewhere inside of you. So the number one thing is stop vilifying. Ask yourself, what are they? What is the projection here? What is this person? What is going on inside of me, inside of my internal movie, my old stories, my beliefs that this person is reflecting back to me? And what would I rather believe? What would I rather this story be? Because I'm ready to leave this behind. So let's just do this, okay? So Susie's representing constant criticism. Nothing I ever do is good enough. Okay, well, that story sounds familiar. I need to start rewriting and reprogramming the story that there are no mistakes. I can only learn and grow and get better with every mistake I make or something I might miss. Criticism has no place here because I'm always willing to grow and learn, whatever that reprogramming looks like for you. But if we just keep Susie being the villain and we don't heal that, then Susie's going to pop up as Betty in the next job. Let me know if that makes sense. So the conscious reprogramming is a deep dive. It's something to thread into the process as you're taking action. You start threading in, let me examine what got me here. What did these people at work represent? What am I ready to shed? And that was a big part of the process for me, where I had to start showing up as that Joanna that was the yogi. How can I be the yogi while I'm doing this job? And for me, it was the constant mantra of this job and experience is necessary, a necessary step for me to springboard into the next thing. For some reason, when I said that, it made it like, okay. And I was able to get back into faith, like something here. And then also mantra-ing, like I am totally willing to learn whatever it is I have to learn and release so that I can move into soul work. And therefore, well, hell, I'm even going to try to be freaking grateful for this challenge, the uncomfortability that this job represents. I'm going to become grateful to the best that I can. I'm going to remember that this is a necessary step. And I'm going to become grateful to the people that piss me off the most because they're showing me something that lives inside of me, some conditioned belief or program that's been running the show that I'm ready to freaking release so that I can do what I came here to do. Okay? Really important. So that is our conscious reprogramming and our acronym ACT. And the final one for T is training the mind. So Chelsea says, I know that's real. I know you do. I know you do. And I feel you when you share things about work because I have been there. And it was similar, I think, your experience and mine because, I was doing work that I created. I wasn't at a desk at a 9-to-5 job, right? I was teaching piano lessons and I was always doing odd jobs, waiting tables or nannying and things like that. So I never was really, nobody was my own boss, or excuse me, I was always my own boss, but it was still like this self, sabotage of hating the jobs that I created. Madison's saying, what does the C stand for? Conscious reprogramming. Yes. So A is action. C is conscious reprogramming. T, which we're entering upon now, is training the mind. So action towards mastery of your energy and your mind is going to be everything. There I go, hammering that home again. So what keeps us stuck in these cycles? And we can dream up for a moment or two that it's possible for us to leave, to become an astrologer, to become a yoga teacher, and then we go back. What is it that gets us stuck? And I would say that it is the blazing, loud stories and thoughts that come up anytime we try to think outside of the box. It's the stories running in your mind. So you have to master your mind. If you don't learn how to master the mind will master you. Now, I'm not saying you have to master the mind in order to create this new soul work. I'm saying that you're going to want to take action towards learning the tools to master your mind, for sure. Because you're going to need to, some days you're going to be able to, if you have the tools, some days you're going to be able to navigate some of the self-talk that's coming up that's trying to keep you in your cozy corner and keep you where you've been comfortable for years and years and years. And you're going to be able to be like, oh, that's okay. Thanks for showing up, but I'm going to push through anyway and keep going and go listen to someone who inspires me so I can remember that that's a lie. You're going to have the mastery to do that. And then other days you're not. Other days you are, we're going to have low days, and that's all part of it. But you want to start taking action towards mastery of the mind. And also, I just include energetics because I feel that your energy, your thoughts dictate your energy, right? They dictate your emotions. If you're having fearful thoughts, you're going to start having fearful feelings and then take fearful action. So getting a handle on this thing. And when I was training very early on, I remember my mentor saying, you are the master of your mind. You are the master of your body. You're not your mind. You are not your mind. Wow. What does that mean? I'm not my mind. Your mind is a tool. Your mind holds a series of information that it created meaning to by witnessing experiences in life and taking in, usually in your formative years, taking in things that people told you when you were younger and you were like, oh, I guess that's true forever. No, probably not actually. But the mind is a tool. So our consciousness, wherever we are in our consciousness, can begin to use the mind to work for us. And that's where you really start coasting. When you can start using the mind to imagine what you want, when you could use the mind to mute the old stories and be like, yeah, that's not true for me anymore. I'm gonna, with confidence and conviction, affirm this new story. But that takes a level of practice so that you can do that. No one ever taught us to do that. There's nothing wrong with you because haven't mastered that yet. Who taught us how to do that? Who taught us how to go to our own soul and internal guidance for for where to move next and how to navigate life, right? But it is something worth and I believe necessary for this process, because I will go back to what I said earlier. And if you begin to create new work, or you find a new job, or you get hired in a new job, and you haven't been able to not only examine the old stories and begin to implement and be able to believe new stories and things that you would rather believe about life around jobs and money and things like that, if you don't have anything to do that, you're just going to carry that frequency with you. We don't want to carry that frequency with you. We want the best version of you at this point in life to come with you in creating the next reality. And then you grow in that reality, and then you create the next one. You get to create the next reality, right? It's like there's no get out of the be all end all thing. Like, don't worry, what if my mind could only manifest that much? It's okay. It becomes easier because you begin to see, when these things pop up, when you can start gaining mastership over the mind, then you can see as these things pop up, oh, okay, here's some residual leftover stories and beliefs. Susie is not so intense this time, but she's just rearing her head in a different kind of way. So what angle is this that I get to uproot and release now? So that it's really a beautiful unfolding. It's a beautiful journey. How is this resonating with you? Madison says, everything you are saying is resonating so much. Oh, that makes me so happy. That makes me so happy. And again, you don't need to do this alone. I always say hire a mentor, or even taking yoga classes or meditation classes. You just want something to keep you anchored into truth as you're navigating these shifts. And you guys know, for me, mantra is my medicine. Mantra just gives me a place to take place of the thoughts, because I have a very busy mind, and when I'm chanting mantra, I plug it into the scattered thoughts, and it's a rhythmic chant, and then I can get into deep tranquil states. And not only that, these mantras are thousands and thousands and thousands of years old, that yogis and seers were using to gain enlightenment, to open up to the higher frequencies, to the deeper questions of life and things so whenever I do that, it's like taking this energetic human shower. It's oh yeah, I'm not just human. Let me just wash out of all these worries and thoughts and get back on track as to what's really going on. And then, gosh, talk about trying to navigate the next step. If I chant 3 separate mantras for how many ever minutes each, by the end of it, it's okay, now I can think about what the next right action is. So that's it. That's what it is for me. I'm not saying it has to be that for you, but something that helps you master the mind is key. All right. I feel like that's good. I feel like that's a good place to leave you today with. I'm going to write down some of those prompts in the group so that you can do some self-examination with your journal today or tonight. And you can bring questions to me tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to have my dear friend Casey Lane join us, and she's really going to hit it from the side and from the experience of someone who left corporate work where she was making 6 figures to become a full-time sound healer. So for those of you who have that story a little bit more in your reality of I don't know, how am I going to leave this stable job? She's going to be a great person to share some information with you on that. We're going to do a little bit more training again around the energetics, and I'm trying to think if there's anything else. And I want to take any questions you have now, or comments or insights before we fully wrap up. This is a good time to ask me anything, or you can again ask me in the Facebook group. So I'm going to check here. Madison says, thank you so much. This has been so great. Oh, I'm so happy to hear that. You're so welcome. Be on the lookout for some prompts so that you can dive a little deeper. And as always, if you follow me on social media, I do have some meditations and things like that on my Instagram and Facebook if you need to, get into the Zen mode and explore some of these questions. That's what I suggest. You're so welcome, Chelsea. I love you all. I appreciate you taking the time to join today, and I will see you tomorrow. Many blessings, everybody.